Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 5:30 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Russ Riesinger.
And I'm Jeanelle Slade. Operations at Montana's largest coal mine idle due to impasse.
Operations have been halted at the Spring Creek mine in Bighorn County, which employs around 260 workers, raising even more questions about the future of the mine.
Now, the new owners of Spring Creek mine, located north of Decker, say they shut down the mine because of an impasse with state regulators.
Now, this disagreement involves sovereign immunity for the Navajo Indian Nation, whose tribal company is the new owner. The Navajo Transitional Energy Company, or NTEC, bought out the previous owners, Cloud Peak Energy, in bankruptcy proceedings. NTEC says the state is demanding the Navajos agree to a complete waiver of their sovereign immunity when it comes to state mining laws.
Rebecca Harbage with the state DEQ tells MTN News that Montana must be able to enforce state mining and reclamation laws and that negotiations are underway to negotiate a final waiver.
Fortunately, it wasn't until just this week, just days before they closed on Cloud Peak's holdings, that we started in earnest to talk about negotiating the language of a waiver. Our hope is that we can move this forward as quickly as possible to ensure that operations can continue with the mine.
The Cloud Peak mine produced almost 13 million tons of coal in 2017, or 35% of all coal mined in Montana.
A Bridger man will most likely spend the rest of his life behind bars after raping both a young girl and another woman. 56-year-old Jean Devereaux was sentenced this week to 120 years in prison after being convicted of 6 felonies in July. Charges were first filed in January of 2017 against Devereaux for raping the girl. She told police he began molesting her in 2005 when she was just 4 years old. Second round of charges were brought against him when another woman came forward saying he raped her. Devereaux will be eligible for parole in 25 years when he's 81 years old.
I think it's important to the community demands that cases like this are prosecuted, and they demand appropriate sentences. And I really have the highest regard for the law enforcement that works so hard to get this done and helped us prosecute this case.
Devereaux's defense attorney called the sentence overly harsh and said he plans to appeal to the Montana Supreme Court.
The Bozeman community still shaken after the loss of Gallatin County Sheriff's Deputy Jake Allmendinger last weekend. Now, those who worked alongside him are preparing to lay him to rest. Sheriff Brian Gutkin says Friday morning, starting at 9 a.m., a procession will take Allmendinger through downtown Bozeman. Officers from across Montana and 4 other states will take part. After the procession, a funeral at Journey Church in Bozeman. Now, to honor Allmendinger, Governor Steve Bullock has ordered all flags across Montana to be flown at half-staff tomorrow. In a statement, Governor Bullock says Montana's law enforcement officers and Montanans all across the state mourn the loss of a fallen brother, but we will never forget the ultimate sacrifice he made to our state.
Well, a message shared by Miss Montana USA on Instagram this week stating that animal agriculture is destructive to the planet, not sitting well with some Montanans.
The Montana Stock Growers Association responded quickly with the message of the importance for ranchers to take care of the land. Q2's David J is standing by now with more on this discussion between a vegan and the beef industry. David.
Well, Jeanelle and Russ from the Post, we're seeing it has turned into a discussion. Miss Montana, Marissa Underwood, says she wants to be respectful, and the stock growers are looking at it as an opportunity for education. Underwood shared a meme with the statement, "Animal agriculture is the most destructive industry facing our planet today." The meme shows statistics on climate change, water use, deforestation, species extinction, fisheries, and waste. The stock growers responded with a post and open letter to Marissa Underwood, Miss USA. The letter states that the stock growers appreciate her passion but want to correct what the organization calls misleading and inaccurate information. And the stock growers letter says that more than 96% of farms and ranches across the U.S. are family owned and operated. Layden Nordland of the Montana Ag Network had a chance to talk with the stock growers today.
We really think it's important to share your story and share with the public what you're doing on your ranch and what makes it so great and what makes it sustainable. Those messages are always better than negative messages bashing other people. Educate, stay positive, and stay factual.
So one thing I want to make quite clear is that I'm not talking about small-scale family farms, small-scale farms. I am talking about large mass corporations. I love all the facts and everything that people are showing me, and I hope that people are open and receptive to hearing what I have to say.
Those Marissa Underwood comments came from her Instagram post. Miss Montana USA stated that she would like to have a conversation about ag and would be willing to tour a ranch after an invitation from the stock growers. Jeanelle, Russ?
All right, thanks so much, David. On the weather scene, Chief Forecaster Bob McGuire joining us. Bob, parts of the South got a glimpse of what our weekend is going to look like.
Yeah, and I tell you what, it was not very nice. Let me show you what's happening out there today. This was happening. This is what we saw in Arnett, Oklahoma, and so they had a little bit of snow out there today. Yeah, it was even on some of the roadway. Other places like Amarillo, Texas, they got hit with some heavier snow. This is the measurable stuff, and you know what? This is the kind of stuff we are going to see probably coming up very shortly. Now, here's what's going to happen here. You'll notice we do see tomorrow. Nice warm front moving in. It's going to be a very nice day for us tomorrow. High pressure moving in, but look up there in Canada. That's a new cold front. That's getting ready to push on through, and look what happens. It blows clean on through the Billings area by Saturday morning, 8:30 a.m. Then after that, another wave of moisture moves in after that. And so how much snow are we talking about? Well, not a lot, but maybe just enough, kind of like what they had in Arnett, Oklahoma. 1 to 2 inches for the Billings area, maybe 2 to 4 inches over in Livingston. We'll have more in your forecast coming up in a few more minutes.
All right, thanks so much, Bob. Well, with recent vaping-related injuries and deaths topping our headlines across the state and country, we all need to know more. So we talked with the Billings Clinic pulmonologist to get a better understanding of the actual physical process that takes place when someone vapes. He says the aerosol produced by vaping devices is so small that it is able to penetrate through all the layers of the lung. Now, these particles irritate the lung, which triggers an immune response, including pain, irritation, and inflammation. It's that response causing severe illness and death.
I would say don't inhale anything that's not air. Putting anything in your lungs that's not supposed to be there, just like putting anything in your body that's not really supposed to be there, has really potentially very serious side effects and can really cause potentially irreversible damage, if not loss of life.
Now tune in tonight at 10 o'clock here on Q2 for a deeper look into pulmonary complications related to vaping. That extended story right here again at 10 o'clock on Q2.
Well, bright labels with pictures of candy can make vaping look tempting. It's a tactic critics say makes people, including kids, use vaping products. Annie Taylor is looking into why that's the case.
E-cigarettes. They're popular with people trying to quit traditional cigarettes. And now e-cig companies are attracting more than tobacco users.
They're doing a lot of what early tobacco companies did, which is glamorize the use of the product. And even though it might be intended, the message might be intended for adults, sort of like Joe Camel, the cartoon character, it might still resonate with children.
Marketing professional Darren Duber-Smith is no stranger to tobacco product marketing. He says he's seeing classic messages shift from pushing cigarettes to pushing e-cigarettes. And he's not the only one.
If you look at the coloring and the fonts and the whole positioning of the campaign, it was clearly targeted to direct to young adults.
Stanton Glantz started studying the tobacco industry in 1978.
Putting the products as fun, as ways to affiliate with your friends.
The FDA noticed. It recently sent a warning to one of the biggest brands in e-cigs, Juul, for the way it marketed its products.
I think the regulatory environment is now playing catch up, and they're starting to look at this category as they've looked at the tobacco category, and they're starting to see the youth addiction and that sort of thing.
They used all of the knowledge that the big cigarette companies had developed in order to hook kids to design their product and design their marketing campaign.
Juul responded by announcing it would pull all of its advertising.
The brands operate in the world of public perception, so Juul, unfortunately, is taking the brunt of this.
Only about 15 years passed between the time e-cigs came to America to when Juul stopped its marketing.
I'm gonna get some of the...
But news of more than 1,000 vape-related lung illnesses and several deaths also came much more quickly than it did with cigarettes. And just like tobacco companies, e-cig companies might soon see stricter regulations.
A lot of it's gonna come down to what the FDA does.
And there's more news from across our state on tonight's statewide news at 9 o'clock. A new partnership coming to Montana. The goal to make it easier for middle-income families to buy their own homes. Join me for that and more tonight at 9 o'clock on the CW.
But still to come on tonight's 5:30 news, we're honoring those who took cancer head on and the people who were there supporting them. We'll meet a woman who tells us how important that support is.
And in sports, Scott hears from Miles City's football guys on why they're the only unbeaten team left in Class A.
You're watching MTN News with Jeanelle Slade and Russ Riesinger. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire. And sports with Scott Green. This is the 5:30 news on Q2, Montana's news leader.